Mayor, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Elmwood Park Mayor and Council to order for March 6, 2014 at 8:02 p.m. On roll call, council members Coletti.
Here.
Dombrowski.
Here.
Martino.
Here.
Pettigano.
Here.
Bonsino.
Here.
Catamagna.
Here.
Mayor Mola.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Will everyone please rise for a prayer and flag salute? Oh God, our Father, we ask you to bless this meeting with the bless our meeting with the entrust to your fatherly care and protection. Please remove all selfishness and prejudice from our hearts, and implant therein the keen sense of justice and the greater love for you and our neighbors. Guide us in our decisions, our deliberations, so our decisions will always please you and bring peace and happiness to our community. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Whereas Chapter 231 of the Public Law of the State of New Jersey requires the commencement of each meeting a statement by the presiding officer. Now therefore be advised the meeting requirements of this meeting have been met by posting an annual notice in the record of Hackensack and the Herald News of Woodland Park, and by posting such notice in the office of the Borough Clerk as well as in the public place within the municipal building, and by notifying interested citizens. Said notice was posted on January 1, 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very fortunate meeting tonight. We have some winners with us. These are the young ladies who went out and had a competition in New Orleans and were number one. And we wanted to congratulate them publicly on camera and before the entire council. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have the coach come to the microphone, and we'll call each cheerleader up individually. We'll give them a certificate, and if you would hold your applause till it's finished, then we can all clap. What I'm saying to myself is, if I had more hair, I'd put a bow on it. Can I have one of the girls just explain one thing to the four in front? Why do they have a bow? Captains, co-captains?
They all have bows.
Where? I don't see.
Most. Some have it in the back.
Gabriella, what happened to yours?
Oh, some have it in the back. Everybody put their head down. Let me see. Okay. It's in the okay.
Some came from work, I think.
Coach, can I have you come up, please? Sorry. We have the certificates here. Coach is going to ask you to come up. I will present you with the certificate. And if you will go past the council, I think they all want to shake your hand and say, good job. And then come back, stand here, and then the photographer can take the picture of the group. Okay? You got it?
Gabriella Tomalillo.
Coach, what's your name, Coach? Excuse me, Coach, what's your name?
Janine Caruso.
Thank you.
They're all going to follow you now.
Congratulations.
Cassandra Maru.
Ambassadors, thank you.
Lauren Presti. Deja Rivera. Daniela Quijano.
Nicely done.
Caitlin Vandervliet. Anna Pistiano Anova. Marissa McLaughlin.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Nicole Arena.
Nicely done.
Anaya Hinton.
Nicely done.
Ebony McCarroll.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you.
and our assistant coach, Jessica Bergio.
Thank you.
So much. Thanks.
Good job, Coach.
Thank you.
Very nice of you.
Thank you.
Outstanding job. Thank you so much for bringing us down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Yeah. The bottom girls are going pushing hard.
Again, I would like to congratulate the cheerleaders, the coach, the assistant coach. Do a good job. When I spoke to you before you left with a few of the other councilmen, I indicated to you that you should go to New Orleans, compete in the competition, enjoy it, do the best you can, and I think my final words were, come home a winner. You came home the winner. I think that's the best part. You want to do good, you want to enjoy, but you want to win, and you've done that. Thank you very much, and congratulations to you. Having cheerleaders in the house is not new to me. My three daughters were all cheerleaders in Elmwood Park, East Patterson, and they even went on to cheer professionally. Two of them did. So I'm aware of the stomping in the house. If they're on the second floor, oh my goodness, I'm aware of that. Thank you, ladies, and
Thank you.
again, congratulations. Yeah, if the councilman want to say anything?
I want to congratulate Crusader cheerleaders and become national champions. I'm very proud of you, as are the rest of the council and the mayor and the board of Elmwood Park. I'm very proud of having been a teacher in your school. I miss all of you, especially Gabriela Tomolillo. She was the sunshine in my period 3 class. Congratulations, and also I miss my 2 students here in front of me. It's good to see you. It's a pleasure. And I wish you the best luck with school. If I say any other words, I may start crying. So, congratulations, and keep up the good job. Coaches, Burjo and Caruso, wonderful job. Congratulations.
Girls, I'd just like to say thank you for being great ambassadors of Elmwood Park. You went somewhere out of state, you represented Elmwood Park, you brought back a trophy. My daughter also was a Bombers cheerleader. We used to go on trips down to Virginia. I loved going on those trips, and let me tell you, there's nothing more overwhelming to being a parent and seeing your kids bring home a trophy. Who are the captains of the team? Is there captains here? No? Okay. Well, obviously you girls all work hard together. You brought back a trophy. We're very proud of you. If anybody thinks that cheerleading is not a sport, they're crazy. Okay? Our U.S. Olympic Committee or the National Olympic Committee should be considering cheerleading as a sport, because there's not only dance involved, or gymnastics involved. There's more injuries that these girls can come by every day just by doing some cheerleading. And I got to tell you, girls, congratulations. We're so proud of you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to say something, Mayor. I guess what's unique about what you achieved in this latest adventure, I'll call it, is the fact that you all together as a unit aspired to being number one. Now, that's not easy. There are sports out there where wrestling or tennis, it's the individual effort. But what's most important in a situation like this is teamwork. And just as we are a team up here and we should function as a team, and if we function as a team, the results is going to be good. So individually, sure, we look at each other, we want to improve, and you want to aspire. But what you've accomplished was teamwork, and that's a great accomplishment. Very nicely done, girls.
Real quick, I'd like to congratulate all the parents who put in tons of hard work. I'm very sure of that, and the girls, I'm sure, are you're reaping the benefits of their happiness. And you know, the past few years, Elmwood Park High School has been coming away with a lot of champions lately, and this is just another effort and another indication that the school and the children have more spirit, and they're working much harder lately. I'm very happy about that, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
I want to thank you, ladies, for coming to the Bomber Girls tonight. My daughters happens to be one of them. So hopefully next week or within 2 weeks, we're going to be having the same presentation for them. They look up to you guys. They were very happy with there. They were all excited. After you gave them the little things from New Orleans, the beads and whatever was in that bag, they all gave it to their parents to take home. So I want to thank you for that, and congratulations.
And I want to indicate to you, as a former guidance counselor, studies are important. Make sure you continue with your grades and your athletic ability. You will do very well in life. And I also want to tell you that we have in Elmwood Park Athletic Hall of Fame. You know who are involved now in the Athletic Hall of Fame and can be chosen? Cheerleaders. Took us a while, but you girls are athletes just the way the boys are. So if you do well, in the future you can be selected to the Elmwood Park Athletic Hall of Fame. Keep that in mind for us. Okay? Thank you. We're going to continue with our meeting. However, if you do want to leave at this time, I welcome you to stay. But if you do want to leave, just use any of the doors and we'll wait a few minutes in case you want to go. You girls might want to go home and rest a little bit.
Mayor, at this time, we'll move on to the approval of minutes for January 16th, 2014, the regular meeting, and February 27th, 2014, executive session.
May I have a motion for both of them, please?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Martino, second.
A second.
Mr. Dombrowski. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
On roll call, council members Coletti?
Yes.
Dombrowski?
Yes.
Martino?
Yes.
Pettigano?
Yes.
Monsino?
Yes, but I have to abstain for the February 27th meeting.
Catamagna?
Yes.
Motion carries. Mayor, this evening under ordinances on first reading, we have Resolution 78-14, introduce ordinance 14-5 on first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled An Ordinance to Fix the Salaries, Wage, and Compensation of the White-Collar Employees, member of the Elmwood Park Employee Association of the Borough of Elmwood Park, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, from January 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2015, be passed and adopted on first reading. And be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, March 20th, 2014, at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter, as the same can be heard, at which time and place all persons interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be and is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing as required by law.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Mr. Dombrowski, second.
Second.
Mr. Catamagna, any discussion? Call the roll, please.
On roll call, council members Coletti?
Yes.
Dombrowski?
Yes.
Martino?
Yes.
Pettigano?
Yes.
Monsino?
Yes.
Catamagna?
Yes.
Mayor, I just want to note for the record that the final adoption of this ordinance, as stated, will be on March 20th, as will the ratification of the contract for this bargaining unit. Also on introduction tonight, Resolution 79-14, introduce ordinance 14-06 on first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled an ordinance amending and supplementing ordinance 88-1 et set of the Borough of Elmwood Park be passed and adopted on first reading, and be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, March 20th, 2014 at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter, as same can be heard, at which time and place all persons interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be and he is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing is required by law.
Motion, please.
So move.
Mr.
Second.
Caramagna, second. Mr.
Second.
Pettagano. Discussion? Call the
Yes,
roll.
Mayor.
Yes.
This means now if someone wants to start a new business in a restaurant, whatever, there'd be no problem. They could take their food home, do I understand?
Yes.
Before, they were unable. They're not supposed to anyhow.
The problem we had is that the ordinance that we were going under in the planning board was that it was allowed. And then some attorney came in about something else, some other subject, and found out that there was an ordinance on the books from 1968, I think, that said, that's before fast food stores really popped up. So we changed it so that they can take it home.
Okay, that's good.
On roll call, council members Coletti?
Yes.
Dombrowski?
Yes.
Martino?
Yes.
Pettagano?
Yes.
Bonsino?
Yes.
Catamagna.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution 80-14, introduce ordinance 14-07 on first reading. Be it resolved that an ordinance entitled an ordinance to amend Chapter 3-10 of the Code of the Borough of Elmwood Park entitled an ordinance to prohibit parking vehicles on posted lands in the Borough of Elmwood Park and to fix penalties for the violation thereof be passed and adopted on first reading, and be it resolved that a final hearing on said ordinance will be heard in the municipal building on Thursday, March 20th, 2014 at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter as same can be heard, at which time and place all persons interested in said ordinance can be heard. Be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk be and he is hereby authorized to advertise in a legal newspaper a notice of introduction and final hearing is required by law.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Dombrowski and Mr. Catamagna. Any discussion? Call the roll.
On roll call, council members Coletti?
Yes.
Dombrowski?
Yes.
Martino?
Yes.
Pettagano?
Yes.
Bonsino?
Yes.
Catamagna.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mayor, this evening on ordinance on second reading, we have Resolution 81-14, introduce ordinance 14-01 on second reading. Whereas public notice has been given by the Borough Clerk that an ordinance entitled an ordinance to amend the current building subcode fees for the Borough of Elmwood Park, Chapter 10, and whereas said ordinance was introduced and passed at a meeting held on Thursday, February 20th, 2014, and that further consideration of this ordinance would be taken up at this meeting. And whereas all persons interested in said ordinance were given the opportunity to be heard concerning same. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Elmwood Park that an ordinance entitled an ordinance to amend the current building subcode fees for the Borough of Elmwood Park, Chapter 10, pass on final reading. Mayor will need a motion to open to the public.
Motion to open the public, please.
So moved.
Mr. Boncino.
Second.
Mr. Coletti. Any discussion? All in favor, opposed? Anyone who wants to speak on this ordinance? I'll close the public portion now. May I have a motion on the ordinance? I'll close the public portion. Motion on the ordinance.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Mr. Boncino, Mr. Catamagna. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
On roll call, council members Coletti?
Yes.
Dombrowski?
Yes.
Martino?
Yes.
Pettagano?
Yes.
Bonsino?
Yes.
Catamagna.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution R82-14, introduce ordinance 14-3 on second reading. Whereas public notice has been given by the Borough Clerk that an ordinance entitled a bond ordinance to authorize the undertaking of various improvements to English Avenue Park in, by, and for the Borough of Elmwood Park in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $200,000 to pay the cost thereof, and to make a down payment to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such an appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds. And whereas said ordinance was introduced and passed at a meeting held on Thursday, February 20th, 2014, and that further consideration of this ordinance would be taken up at this meeting. And whereas all persons interested in said ordinance were given the opportunity to be heard concerning same. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Elmwood Park that an ordinance entitled a bond ordinance to authorize the undertaking of various improvements to English Avenue Park in, by, and for the Borough of Elmwood Park in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $200,000 to pay the cost thereof, and to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such an appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds, pass on final reading. Mayor will need a motion to open to the public.
Motion, please, Mr. Boncino, Mr. Coletti. Anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard? No one wishes to be heard? I'll close the public portion. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Boncino,
Second.
Mr. Martino. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Again, I want to state publicly, as I said in the last reading of the first reading, that I personally am against the in this bond, in this $200,000, there'll be money to put down the surface of a hockey rink. I'm against putting it at English Avenue Park. I'm not against it going anywhere in any other park in Elmwood Park, but English Avenue Park, due to the limitations of being able to be policed. So I just want to publicly say that I'm against where it's going. I see that the rec commissioners are here today, and I've also expressed that to them directly. I am going to vote yes for this because I don't want to lose the money, but I just want everybody to understand that it's a concern of mine, the location of where it's going.
That's it?
That's it, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I feel the same way, Mayor.
Okay. I just want to clarify something. The bond is $200,000, but $100,000 is given by, $100,000 of that money comes from the Bergen County Open Space Committee. So we're only putting in $100,000, and they match whatever we put in. Call the roll, please.
On roll call, council members Coletti?
Yes.
Dombrowski?
Yes.
Martino?
Yes.
Patagano?
Yes.
Bonsino?
Yes.
Catapano?
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution 83-14, introduce ordinance 14-4 on second reading. Whereas public notice has been given by the Borough Clerk that an ordinance entitled An Ordinance to Amend Chapter 11-5 of the Code of the Borough of Elmwood Park entitled Registration of Guests of Motels, Hotels, and Guest Lodges. And whereas said ordinance was introduced and passed at a meeting held on Thursday, February 20th, 2014, and that further consideration of this ordinance would be taken up at this meeting. Now, whereas all persons interested in said ordinance were given the opportunity to be heard concerning same. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Elmwood Park that an ordinance entitled An Ordinance to Amend Chapter 11-5 of the Code of the Borough of Elmwood Park entitled Registration of Guests of Motels and Hotels and Guest Lodges pass on final reading.
Motion, please, open to the public.
So
Mr.
moved.
Coletti, Mr. Boncino, all approved. So ordered. Anyone in the public who wishes to be heard? I'll close the public portion of the meeting. May I have a motion on the ordinance, please?
So
Mr. Martino, second. Mr. Coletti, any discussion? Call the roll.
Roll call, council members Coletti?
Yes.
Dombrowski?
Yes.
Martino?
Yes.
Patagano?
Yes.
Bonsino?
Yes.
Catapano?
Yes.
Motion carried. Mayor, this evening under the consent agenda, we have Resolution 84-14, payment of bills, Resolution 85-14, confirmation of payroll, Resolution 86-14, officer in charge appointment of the Elmwood Park Police Department, Resolution 87-14, appoint junior firefighter company number 1, Resolution 88-14, approve handicap parking space, Resolution 89-14, refund overpayment due to appeal of tax court block 1701, lot 10, Resolution 90-14, refund engineering escrow money for Milt-Built Homes. Resolution 91-14, authorized release of maintenance cash bond, block 1707, lot 2. Resolution 92-14, authorized transfer of documents. Resolution 93-14, resolution requesting additional funds for Fleischer's Brook. Resolution 94-14, resolution authorizing an agreement between New Jersey Transit Corporation and the Borough of Elmwood Park for the installation and maintenance of a bus shelter on Route 46. Resolution 95-14, approved temporary inspector for the building department, Brian Mutch. Resolution 96-14, reappoint Municipal Alliance Program Coordinator, Barbara Despodo. Resolution 97-14, a special emergency amendment to the 2014 temporary budget appropriation. And Resolution 98-14, authorized service agreement with Alimo Group.
Motion, please.
So moved. I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Let me have the
sorry.
motion. Motion made by Mr. Martino, second.
Second.
Mr. Boncino, any discussion?
Yes, on R8814, is that for a home? And if someone else has a park in the handicap, can they park there?
Yes.
Or is that in the individual spot?
No, it's the handicap parking, and anyone can park there.
Okay.
It's reserved specifically for someone. You get a ticket for
According to our attorney, it's never been brought to my attention before that if the handicap parking is there for a specific person, the ticket be given out. I've never heard that before.
That's what I was asking. I wasn't aware of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Also, the resolution about the installation of a maintenance bus shelter. That's going across the street from the parking lot on Route 46. They cross the street, park in the parking lot, cross the street. It was needed, it's still needed, and hopefully, thank you to Mr. Kazmark, we're finally getting that. Call the roll, please.
On roll call, Councilmembers Coletti?
Yes.
Dombrowski?
Yes.
Martino?
Yes.
Patagano?
Yes.
Monsino?
Yes.
Catamania?
Yes.
Motion carries. Departmental reports, we have the Health Officer's report for January, Board of Health minutes for December 9th, 2013, the January 13th, 2014 reorganization meeting, the January 13th regular meeting, the January 23rd, 2014 special meeting, Police Department annual report for 2013, Library Board minutes for December 23rd, 2013, a special session of the Library Board of December 30th, 2013, January 27th, 2014 Library Board minutes, Department of Public Works report for January, Municipal Court report for January, Recreation Department report for January, and the Police Department report for January.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Boncino, second.
I'll second.
Mr. Dombrowski. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? So ordered.
Mayor, that concludes my portion of the agenda.
Committee reports. Let's start at the right with Mr. Catamagna.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been waiting since 1993 to see an article on the front page in a community news. Business owners feel frustration trying to get up shop in the borough. I've been working on this since before 1993. Finally, I have people working on it also. I want to thank you, the reporter. She did a good job. Also, Mr. Oreka, the Chamber of Commerce, and also credit to Mr. Drominski for helping back me up on this. In the past, I was all by myself, tried to do things. I wasn't able to do this much. But now, thank you guys. We gotta understand business brings us rateable. Apartments instead do not. The only way to keep taxes down is to encourage business to come to our borough. Last time we had work meeting at the planning board. 2 applications came in before us. I guess it would be the address GRE River Drive, 669 River Drive, the tenant Emerson, Reed and Company, and also the bioreference lab, 41 Slater Drive, for the replacement of a second backup generator. I asked the chairman, Mr. Ron Vicari, if it was possible to have a copy of the applications a few days before the work meeting so that everyone knows why the applicants are coming before us. Mr. Vicari said it is illegal to give the members of the planning board a copy because he's afraid that members will discuss the applications with the applicants before the meeting. I don't think that we have enough time to read and listen to the applicants at the same time. We get given to us the applications, and then we invite the people to testify. I don't think there's enough time. I'm sorry. And I like to have a few days before, so I'm able to read, understand, and then if I have any, then he goes, does anybody have any question? I'll be honest with you, I didn't have time to read the whole thing. I prefer, if possible, to receive these documents a few days before, able to understand, analyze, and perhaps go to the site and look for myself what we're going to vote on. So I don't understand why. Maybe I ask the attorney if there's a law against it, given to us before. He told me also that I could go to the, I guess the, to see Carrie and ask her to let me read. Because I asked Carrie, she said, no, we need the permission from the chairman. So, anyhow, if I wish I have a few days before for me to analyze and read and understand what I'm voting for. Anyhow, on the second I am happy to announce that our municipal taxes are going to increase only $57 for the year, based on assessed house of $330,000. I thank the mayor, the council, the CFO Roderick Dano, and our auditor, Paul Lurch, for being very prudent on spending. This is excellent. Thank you, guys. It's an excellent, the increase is a very small increase for the year. All right, last but not least, I want to thank Daniel Golubak for making us aware that our library doesn't have Wi-Fi. I hope our library will get the Wi-Fi and be up to date with the rest of our neighbors' library. Mayor, I finish. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dombrowski?
Yes, Mayor, earlier this evening we had an opportunity to go see the Elmwood Park Bomber cheerleaders and wish them well on their attempt to bring back the gold at the Gilbert Avenue School. They're going to Hershey Park, Hershey tomorrow to compete over the weekend, and we hope that they have as much success as our older girls, and we wish them well. About the library situation, I think that we could talk about this all night long. What's good and bad, and certainly we want to protect our children. Mr. Randazzo, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask our attorney if he would look into it, possibly if we could have a separate section just for adults only, where there's no kids allowed, and then we can have a Wi-Fi in that area. I'd like to see if that's legal. Let's look at all opportunities. Let's not just say no to not having Wi-Fi. And I think, given the library board credit, I'm not going to. I know their article read saying that we're not going to have Wi-Fi. I think they're open to listening. Okay, I think that they're open to understanding that other towns around us have it. We certainly don't want to have someone do something illegal in there. If we post signs saying that looking at explicit, products, it's illegal, we'll ask you to leave. I don't know if we can actually arrest somebody for doing that in a public place. But again, let's look into all opportunities. Let's not say no, and let's see what opportunities we can bring and have Wi-Fi at the library. Lastly, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to wish my lovely wife a happy birthday today. My gift to her today was having her sit in the hospital with me all day and while I had my procedure. But she's been a gem over the last couple of months as I'm going through some of my issues, and I just wanted to recognize her and say happy birthday. Thank you. That's it. Progress.
Mr. Boncino?
Yes, Mayor. Relative to the library and wireless, I'm not sure why it is an issue to implement wireless at the library. I know the wireless in my home when my children were younger, I used to put a filter on the content I didn't want shared over the wireless. I don't understand why we cannot put the same filter that's used on the hardline computers on the wireless network. It should be pretty straightforward, just as it was described in the article that they're blocking the hardline PCs. Relative to resolution on the consent agenda, resolution 8614, we appointed an officer in charge effective March 8th. That's the Saturday. For those of you who do not know, our current chief, Tom Johnson, has decided to retire effective July 31st, 2014. And he has some time due between now and then. We'll probably see him before the end of July. But I'd like to take this opportunity to thank him for his service to our community. He took over as chief on the heels of a number of retirements and in the midst of us streamlining the table of organization. So he had quite a job on his hands when he took the reins downstairs. But he quickly assimilated to his new responsibilities and did move the department forward during that time. I wish him all the best in his retirement and all the best in any of his future endeavors. I'd also like to take the opportunity to wish Captain Mike Foligno the best as he assumes officer in charge responsibilities, and I look forward to working with him in the immediate future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Martino?
I have nothing to report about the homeowners, but the library is very interesting because how do you not, in today's day and age, how do you not have it? We've gone over this. It doesn't make sense to me, but maybe somebody can educate me, because that's where our world is. And I'll tell you a 10-second story. Why this is today. I had to go to Micro Center in Patterson to bring my son's iPad, and they couldn't open it. I had to go back to the school and ask him for the code to open his iPad. Used to write somebody a piece of paper, but so our world has just moved so fast and so forward. We're keeping the library in the dark ages. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Pedigano?
Thank you, Mayor. There's not a lot to report, except that tomorrow I will be visiting the DPW in the morning to greet all the workers. Also to sit down with the superintendent to address some of the issues that we have been asked about over the past couple months with all the snow, because we really want to improve this for next year. I hope our winters are not going to be this brutal here on in. Hopefully we have another warm one next year, but we are going to try very hard to implement some new strategies for next year and make it a little more comfortable on our streets. And that's about it, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Coletti?
Regarding taxes, I know my colleague had mentioned prior that we're in the process of working them out for this year. I like to say that when you're working on taxes, and what happens this year actually started 2 years ago. In order for the results to be what it is this year, it was the efforts of the members of the council of 2 years ago. And to them, we have to say thank you. And we have to say thank you for two reasons: that they were frugal enough, the fact that they kept expenses down, and to allow us this year. Now, this year's budget, as we work on it, will benefit next year and the following year. It's a 3-year window, in essence. Yes, thank the previous councils and thank this council also for the cooperation. My colleague also mentioned the planning board. We have to be careful for what we wish there. And that is, I understand what you were saying about getting the application. I served on the planning board for quite some time. And you get the application, and you got to rush to get all this information, and it's difficult. But what I fear that if you change that, the applicant right now has a month span. If you add additional time for the members to read their packet and go observe, you might be pushing that applicant off for another week or two and only lengthening the process. So we got to be careful.
Yeah, my question is, I know the chairman is already informed. He read them many times before. We're the only ones, the rest of us, we didn't read it. I mean, even giving me a couple hours before, I just want to read it. Because, really, I don't know, I find fast to, the package. People come to testify. Then do you have any question? Really, I wasn't ready for any question. I think other towns, as I understand, they get a package in the mail. Okay?
The GIF annual safety.
We're okay with the council meeting. We have this.
I'm sorry?
Week before, we read it,
Yeah.
we prepare it. It should be the same way.
The GIF Annual Safety Awards Breakfast will be held on March 26th, 8:30 a.m. at the Stony Hill. All the council's invited. I guess if you care to go, you'll contact our administrator.
Free?
There's no charge for that. That's correct.
For me.
Awards will be given out to town members' safety practices. And pursuing to our fire department, I will be attending their next chief's meeting on March 10th and have an updated report. And I know this sounds like a broken record, but I do want to emphasize for you folks out there that live near a fire hydrant, your property borders it, by law, it's your responsibility to keep it clear. When you take into consideration we have 500 hydrants and the conditions that we had to prevail through this winter, it's virtually impossible for the fire department and the DPW to maintain it without the help of our citizens. And if there's a person that's handicapped and that fire hydrant's in front of their house, as a good neighbor, get out there and help that person clear that fire hydrant. And when you think about it, it's your neighbors, it's your family, it could be your own life you're saving. Because there's no shorter distance than that hydrant to your house. But if the fire department has to go out 2 or 3 fire hydrants down the road, all that valuable time is being lost in getting to that fire hydrant, hosing it up, and getting that hose to your house. So it could be your life you're saving. Mayor, that ends my report.
Thank you. On my report, I just want to reiterate what I said at the last council meeting. This year, as it's been in the past, your water rate's going to go up 5%. We're being charged 5% more by Passaic Valley Water, and we're just passing it on to you, the residents and the businesses. So that will be an increase we have no control over. I did mention to some of our state officials that they should do it as soon as possible. They should vote to reinstitute the arbitration cap of 2% for salaries. And I think they have until April to do that. I would be very concerned if it wasn't done, and we have a big contract coming up with the police department. If it's not a 2% cap, then we're talking about 3, 4, or whatever. So it should be done. How do we keep a budget at 2% and not keep salaries at 2% at least? Secondly, or thirdly, Mr. Catamagna, to get that information, that's why we have a work meeting, so you can get the package at the work meeting. It's not a public vote, and you can ask all the questions you want at that meeting, and then a week later, you can vote on the actual application. Mr. Vicari, the chairman, also indicated if you wanted to get whatever the building department had, you're perfectly legal to go get it.
Right, now I know that.
So, and I know that you took that information home with you to review. So that's important. If you want to do that, that's fine. But we have 2 meetings, one to find out what's going on, and then the public meeting in which more questions can be asked.
Mayor, it's kind of fast to have it. Last time was only 2 applicants. If I get 5, 6, I gotta go over this and listen to the people at the same time.
Well, that's why we have. That's what the work meeting's for, to listen what they have to say,
Okay.
and then ask the questions that you feel are necessary. You can take the material home, and then the following week, which is the public meeting, you can ask the same question.
I just don't agree with that. But
Well, that's what you can do. We've
All
been
right.
doing it for years, and nobody's complained about taking it home.
But people don't know. But I don't think they're ready to answer it. Anyway,
Well,
that's okay.
that's why we have a
I'll do
work
the best
meeting.
I can.
The zoning board doesn't even have a work meeting. They just go in and it's a public meeting and they vote on it. As for the Wi-Fi, the library is concerned about protecting the people in town, protecting the children, and protecting the council, see what's legal that can be done, and if anybody is viewing anything of that nature, can they be eliminated from the library and any charges be presented to them. Is there anyone in the audience? I'll open to the public. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard?
Keith Work, 308 Gilbert Avenue. My reason to address the mayor and council is the possibility of changing the responsibility of the Recreation Commission and the reasons for the change. Not quite sure why they're making the changes. I've been addressing the Recreation Commission for 22 years, since I've been the president of various organizations for 22 years. These members of the Recreation Commission are dedicated volunteers who donate their time to manage the parks at Elmwood Park, to assist the allotments of the fields, to various organizations, and they hold the responsibility of spending on these fields. And they do it at their own time. They're not being paid for this. These meetings go 2-3 hours long, and they're dedicated individuals that handle these responsibilities. Some of the reasons why they're being removed for an advisory board, saying they were responsible for mismanagement of funds and they're lacking to manage all parks in Elmwood Park is a little bit ridiculous. These people have put efforts, that there's been so much improvements in these parks. We have a new basketball court in the rec center. We have sprinklers in the borough field where it keeps the grass green. We have new playground equipment in various parks. Are all the parks being worked on? No. You try to finish one park at a time to get the things done. You had a major renovation going in Los Avenue to alleviate the overcrowding, the overuse of borough field. I mean, these members take their responsibilities highly, and to say that they're responsible for mismanagement is very, they need an apology. I mean, who are these members? These are members of Elmwood Park. There's a state trooper who donates his time at, hosting, running clinics for first and second grade basketball clinics, nor for Bergen County Utilities Commission, a program from ADP who donates his time to Little League and indoor hockey, a facilities engineer for one large engineering firm who donates his time to Little League and St. Leo's, a manager real estate office who also donates his time to baseball, basketball. And we also have two founders of organizations, the founders of Girls Softball League and founders of the Elmwood Park Bombers Association, before that person resigned. And these members hold a tremendous amount of responsibility, yet they donate their time to Elmwood Park children. And people say that, well, they're coaches, they're going to vote for their organizations. No, they don't. They abstain their votes when anything has to do with their organizations. They take it, they're that responsible. And anybody who wants to, check out their meetings, they record their meetings. They record all the meetings so you can hear how they vote. Like I said, I know more about the Rec Commission than I think anybody else here because I've been going to them for 22 years, 6 to 8 times a year. I think if we go to an advisory board, we're just adding another level of governance. We have to go to an advisory board, then to come here to get a decision. And I think some decisions have to be made immediately. To have a league wait possibly 2 months because the rec commission meetings are only held monthly. I would assume the advisory board will be held monthly. Have to go to the advisory board to come to the mayor and council to get a decision. That could be 2 months. And I think it would be a major bad decision if you go that route. I mean, I think it borders on stupidity because you really, well, first of all, telling these volunteers that that donate their time, not only at the meetings, but on the fields, the kids. These people donate a tremendous amount of time. They are out there helping our kids in this town, and they're going to be thanked by, you're not doing a good job. You're just managing money. And to me, those people are very responsible people. Look at the positions they hold. Very responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. How much time we have? 6 minutes. Okay, next.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tom Barillo. I've got a couple questions.
Address, please.
98 Elmwood Drive. Got a couple questions regarding some of the water main breaks in town and everything. I was watching one the other day on Market Street. And, normally you compact the ground back every 8 to 10 inches with a jumping jack, and Mr. Coletti could confirm that with you, right?
Yes.
I watched them dump in 4 feet of stone the other day into the hole and left it like that and just covered it with asphalt. And then the next one up in front of, I believe it's East Lake Rentals or Mr. Caramani's property, they left a nice big hump right there along the curb where the water's not going to be able to come down, go into the drain or anything like that.
Tom,
probably 3 or 4 inch hump.
Let me just interrupt you there.
Yeah.
When you have frozen soil, though, the rule of thumb doesn't apply.
Soil, it wasn't soil, it was clean stone.
Clean stone.
It was QP, yeah.
QP?
It's QP. All right, so you got to compact it every 8 to 10 inches. And you wouldn't put frozen soil back in the ground anyhow, rule of thumb.
Well, if you put it back in the ground, you would hump it up if you could afford to. It doesn't cause any problems.
Right.
And then as the ground defrosted, then you would allow it to
My
find its own.
question is, we're supposed to have skilled laborers and everything to know what they're doing in supervision. Why is this going on like this? And in front of Mr. Pettigano's house, there's another water main break there they were working on today. And they left a hump on the stone, and they put another 3 or 4 inches over it to make it like a speed bump. So I don't understand why, you have 5 or 6 guys standing around cleaning out a hole. Why can't, they be done right? And it's got to be done wrong all the time. My other question is, I noticed a lot of the DPW pickup trucks, even some of the new ones, they're banged up. They're smashed up a little bit on the back ends and everything. I think in Mr. Kazmark's town, they have a $1,000 deductible you have to pay. If you hit it, the employee has to pay it. Is that correct, Mr. Kazmark?
We have a policy where if after an investigation conducted by the police department points to... We have a policy where if the employee is responsible for the accident following a police investigation, they are responsible for the deductible.
So maybe we can make that responsible for the town here. Because you know what? You're getting brand new trucks every year. There's no reason for getting brand new pickups all the time. And they're getting banged up. So maybe somebody should look into why they're getting banged up on that end. And I don't know, I'm just curious. Why hasn't anybody been cleaning the snow the last couple of weeks? Garfield, Fairlawn, just drive through Woodland Park. It's clean. The streets are clean. They're scraping as much as they can, curb to curb. Garfield hired an outside contractor. Elmwood Park, they haven't done anything. You don't see the machines out there, the dump trucks, nothing. The blizzard in '96, Mr. Mulligan had it. He cleaned his town up perfect with the manpower he had and the dump trucks. And he did it all by, within the town people. He had his guys work. What happened this year? And I don't want to hear that we had a lot of snowstorms back to back. We had a 3-foot snowstorm in one day, 24-hour period, and a week and a half later, the town was cleaned up nice. So I don't know what's going on down here. Maybe this meeting tomorrow you have with the department head, you should look into things. Try to get things done right, because it's just a waste of money. Going back over, like I'm talking about the patch with Mr. Clay, I'll take you out tomorrow, I'll show you, and you can tell me it's a good job, because I recall doing a job years ago on Summit Ave. We had to compact it back, and the homeowner had it fixed right after that, nice and smooth, after we brought it back, after a tiny bit of settlement. But why is the town not responsible for fixing their holes, and the contractors and the homeowners are when they have to go into the road? That's what I'm asking. I just want to know what's going on.
Thank you.
An answer maybe the next meeting or something like that.
Mr. Pedigano, as liaison, will get that.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to be heard?
Mr. Mayor, the tape is ended.
Hold on, we're going to take a 5-minute recess to change the tape. Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order.
That's interesting to find out.
If anyone wishes to be heard, please come to the microphone. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm Russ Leon, 88 Lawrence Place. I just wanted to share a little article. This is from the Herald News. It's a real short article. I think it's apropos, so I just want to read it real quick. It says here, Chief may well end up on the beat. That's what the title is. It says, Elmwood Park, the police chief may be forced to perform patrol duties as a result of undermanning in the police department, the police commissioner said Thursday. The Borough Council has hired 2 regular patrolmen to offset some of the retirements that racked the police force this month. Since April 1st, 4 regular officers and three officers employed under a program left the 32-man department, with 3 more regulars scheduled to leave this summer. The appointments of the 2 officers brought the force up to 30 men. But one councilman, who was also a police commissioner, said no other replacements can be hired until September due to training requirements. In the meantime, the councilman said the town may be forced to use the remaining officers on the reduced force in various capacities. It may well be that we'll have the chief going out on the road, the captain going out on the road, even the records clerk. The records room doesn't have to be staffed full time. Our first priority is the security of the town, the councilman said. Town officials have complained that the state imposed 5% annual cap, which limits increase of spending, precludes them from hiring extra police. And Mayor, you and I are the only ones around for this. This was actually, the person that gave this up was Jerry Reinreb. This was actually 1980. So I was on the department 1 year at that time. And I bring it up because Mr. Monsino had brought up about the retirements. And I had dug this up and I thought it was apropos because you face, if you think about it, it was a 5% cap. Now you have a 2% cap, and with the government now it's talking about maybe a 1% or 0.5% or 0, whatever is going to happen. But it's nothing new. So everything you guys are facing, we faced 35 years ago. Exactly the same thing. The one problem in Elmwood Park's always been that we've always seemed to have a mass exodus, and then we hire 7 or 8 guys. So it's no surprise 30 years later, 7 or 8 people are going to retire. Last year or 2 years ago, when I retired, we retired 7 people. You hired 7 people 30 years prior. So it's no surprise. But it's funny to have this article. I guess I held on to this for 35 or 40 years, whatever it is. And so maybe you remember reading it, Mayor.
It's a good shape.
The council probably wasn't around for that. But I'm reading this and I swear, and I actually took the names out when I read it. It was actually to hire Officer Van Loon and did it with the 2 officers that were hired. Salary was $12,000. So I was hired a year before that. But I think it's pretty, it's funny in a way because you're talking, Mr. Monsino, you just brought it up that, Chief's going to retire in a couple of weeks, he's gone, and, you guys have to make some decisions. I understand that. But the decision's been made for 35 years, 40 years. It's nothing new.
Oh, yeah.
And, inflation has changed things. You have a 2% cap. It was a 5% cap. And I remember Mayor come to some of the meetings when you talked about the 5% cap. And that was pretty new back then. And we had problems. Couldn't hire any police officers. We couldn't give raises. So I just wanted to point something out that you had brought up, but it's not anything new. So it's been around. I'm going to give our administrator the article. In case anybody wants to read it. Pretty interesting.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Kaplan, you had your hand up?
I do.
Does anybody else want to shake hands with anybody? I say, well adjourned.
I just said he mentioned names, and I remember those names also.
I'm only teasing.
Bill Kaplan, Glenwood Avenue, Elmwood Park. Gentlemen, I've been on the planning board 40 years. And in 40 years, we've always had, we still do, have a work session, and the following week, a public session. At the work session, you are handed out all these applications. That is the time when you look them all over, and you ask questions. Mayor Coletti, who asks all the questions there? Yes, you ask questions. And that's, you don't have to get this a week before. If you thumb through all the applications, and whatever you see, you ask a question. Then your questions are answered. Then you come to the public meeting, and if your questions are still not answered, you can still ask a question. There's no need for these applications to be a week before. We get a work session and then a public session. Simple as that. It's whatever. Or if I just may comment, gentlemen, please learn to use the microphones in front of you. The public can't hear you out there. Am I right?
Yes.
Hey. Learn to use the microphone.
Thank you, Mr.
If
Kaplan.
those microphones aren't good enough, perhaps you can look into a more sensitive system so that the public can hear what you gentlemen are saying.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Anyone else who wish to be heard? Mr. Nestori. Has his hand up, Rich.
George Nestori, 2 Sabo Court. Bob, you brought up the fire plugs. Every town has these poles attached to the fire plugs, so you know where the fire plugs are when the mounds are there. And I think that we should think about doing this next year. It's actually a necessity. It goes from the guy plows.
George, I saw some of them out. I didn't see it continuously, though, but I will bring that up at the next Chiefs meeting.
Because that helps when the guy's plowing, he will see the pole, so he may not put all the snow onto because with this kind of weather, and when you plow and you have a mound over the 3-foot, 5-foot mound over this fire plug, and that's like a rock, it's like concrete now. Who's going to go out there and chisel it away? It's very, very difficult. So I think with the pole, it's definitely, it's not something, it's not whether we can do it or not. It could be a lifesaver. Mr. Mayor, that paint building right off of Boulevard on Grand Riper, I mean, for years you're telling me you're working on it. I mean, I know it's contaminated, but can that ever be fixed? I mean, it's a tremendous eyesore.
Say that again, George, the beginning, I didn't hear it.
Cinco on the boardwalk.
Cinco paint?
Yeah.
We've been working on that for years. The property doesn't belong to us, and what has been indicated by our engineer that in order to clear that area up, it would cost us approximately $250,000 to take out all the contaminants that are in there, and the council is looking at it, and if they want to do that, they can spend the money to take it over.
Through you, Mayor, to George, the former borough attorney, Mr. Giblin. George? The former borough attorney, Mr. Giblin, he was in discussions with the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency down in Washington, D.C. There are significant federal liens on that property, which is what was blocking us from trying to take some sort of custody of the property in order to properly clean it up.
So how do we overcome those?
Well, that file was passed on to Mr. Randazzo, so I anticipate that the discussion around those liens will continue.
Okay, and is there any way we can get some federal funds, or maybe the state funds, we can apply for anything to help us alleviate that problem?
Everything that's been done on that property internally, underground, has been done with state funds, and they've stopped.
And we were trying to get the feds to forego the lien to give us a clear title so that we could approach the next problem, which was the cleanup. So in terms of dollars and cents right now, you're looking at $750,000 in order to clear that property. The $500,000 over to the feds, I think it was $450,000, and another $250,000 to clean it up.
Yeah, but we're talking about, this thing has been there for 40 years, 25 years. Like that, and it just gets progressively worse. I mean,
it's been cleaned.
We had tremendous opportunities in the past when money was flowing all over the place. We should have been going after the money that was easy to get at that time. I mean, now things are tightened up.
We did, George. We got Brownsfields at one point, and we cleaned up the.
What should happen is look at least leveling that building. And and see what you can do to get the funds to alleviate the soil. But that thing is such an eyesore, and it's right off the boulevard. You can see it. It's just the thing that we should address.
I would like to level the building. We can't touch it unless it's cleaned up.
You can't even knock it down.
Listen, that's what we wanted to do.
We started doing it, the cleanup.
We got all the grants we could get for the underground. We wanted to level the building and can't touch it until it's adjudicated by the DEP. George, we've done everything possible. If you have another suggestion, we're glad to hear it.
Short of $750,000.
Well, I would say go through our federal officials and see if they can get some flow-through monies.
We were trying to get the feds to forego their lien on the property and give us a clean bill, but they weren't receptive to it.
I mean, I'm just saying it's not 1 or 2, 3 years. This thing has been there for 35 years.
I know, George. Yeah, George.
It should have been done already by now. I mean, you've got to be proactive with some of these things. You just can't let things lie and just fester and keep the town down. It's not good. The third thing I'd like to bring up was you're talking about the water system and breaks in the water system. And we have old systems, and we have sewer systems that are old, and we have the infiltration into the sewer lines. And it's costing us, the taxpayers, a lot of money, especially when we get a lot of water, we get a lot of rain, and the table comes up, it infiltrates, and then we pay for that. And somehow, some way, we have to look at going after the people who have sump pumps that are going into the sanitary sewers. Because that backs up and that costs us a tremendous amount of money. And I would strongly recommend, look at some of the towns like Waldwick, who did alleviate that type of a problem. And we can do these things, but you gotta wanna do it. And it's actually cost effective to correct these problems. And if you just sit here and let people who get backups in their basement after they finish their basement have nice, nice basements with toilets down there, with bathrooms, and then they get backups. I know they can put the reverse valves in, but sometimes they don't work all the time. So I strongly recommend, now that we got a different council that might be more amenable to looking at these things, and look at how we can alleviate these things. Maybe talk to the engineer, and maybe it will have to be done piecemeal. It's not something you spend a lot of money in 1 year. But if you start taking sections and piecemealing it, within 5 years, 6 years, you'll have it corrected. And each year, you correct some of it, and that's money that's back into the taxpayers' hands. So I would strongly recommend you looking at that. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to be heard?
Rich Troinski, 42 Walnut Street. Just before I get started, George, this previous council did look at the sinkhole pay tracking in great detail. I was part of that. Their hands aren't tied. If you notice, there are a lot of these brownfield sites all over the state. Until the DEP starts changing some regulations, we're stuck with it. And the other thing, as far as the sump pumps go, there is technology coming out as we speak to put dyes in the ground to find out where these, like you go outside the house, put a dye and it'll go into that sump pump. But it's just beginning. Scott is well aware of it. But the other reason I'm up here is to answer Frank's question about the visits with the planning board and seeing an application before the actual planning board hearing. As far as I know, I've been around land use law a long time. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Randazzo, the borough attorney. Any member of the planning board can review that application once it's submitted to the building department or to the planning board chairman. I know that for a fact, and you're allowed to look at it and review it. You don't have to wait until the meeting. As far as site visits, if the planning board so decides to go out to the site before the meeting, it has to be publicized. And it has to be reported what they did and what they saw. They cannot discuss anything with the applicant. As far as an individual planning board member going out, which Fairlawn does from time to time, you can go out to the meeting, you can drive to the site, you can drive by, you can't discuss it with the applicant, but again, you have to report it back to the planning board at the meeting. And that's my take on that. If I'm wrong, Mr. Randall, you correct me on that. But once that's submitted to the building department or the chairman, it's public record for anybody to look at that application.
Thank you. That's exactly what Chairman of the Planning Board, Ron Vicari, mentioned. Mr. Catamagna can go to the building department and get it any time he wants. And as he did at the last meeting, take the application home and look at it again. Anyone else who wishes to be heard? Gentlemen, if not, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Coletti, second by Mr. Dombrowski. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.